Good afternoon. Welcome to the Board of Health meeting of January 22nd, 2024. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording this meeting, please notify the chairman. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023 extending certain COVID-19 measures, adopting during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Board of Health is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 156-944-295 #, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV Channel 8, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of the meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Now I'll turn the meeting over to our chairman, Dr. Noble Hanson.
Thank you. It shall be the policy of this board to conduct its meetings under the Open Meetings Law so as to encourage public participation whenever time permits and as part of agenda item discussions. Okay, so today we have three items on the agenda, and first we can establish a quorum. And as I call your name, please acknowledge that you're here. Carol Boyce. Here. Ron Broman. Here. Richard Edwards. Here. And John Beckley may be virtually, or is he not here? So he's not a part of the meeting. So Carol Gordon, yeah. You're here, and then we'll bring you in as a participant, and you can vote. Okay, so first on the agenda is a presentation from Laura Kelly from Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer, who has requested Board of Health support, and I think she's made a presentation to the Select Board, and the Select Board has asked for our recommendation, as I understand it. So, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Laura Kelly. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, just always check. You never know. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to give a presentation to you. Yes, I was asked by your Board of Selectmen to come to the Board of Health. My ultimate request is to have a pesticide home rule petition on your town meeting ballot 2024. So that was my request to the Select Board, and they suggested I come speak with you good folks today. So my request to you is to write a letter in support to your Select Board to have a pesticide home rule petition granted on your town meeting ballot 2024. So I hope that makes some sort of sense, but please do ask afterwards if I can explain that any better. Excuse my throat. So I originally started working with the town of Orleans on this topic in 2022 to reduce fertilizer. And this went to town meeting vote and passed. And that was the fall, October of 2022, for a fertilizer reduction. Last year, 2023, we moved forward and did a pesticide home rule petition. Again, this is just a reduction, so I'll get into those details next. That went to town meeting vote and passed by 68% in favor. So we're seeing more and more that this is becoming a necessity. As you know, ponds are showing effects of, I'm going to say, human use in products. So one home rule petition was fertilizer that feeds vegetation, right? And tonight I'll be talking about pesticides which kill. So they're two total different eggs. We don't want to mix them up. We're focusing on pesticides because we really feel that the science is so much more evident and obvious, and that it is so much more harmful. So over time, it's going to do more harm to us. So we wanted to focus on one and bring that to the State House. At this point, one town has voted, and to get a second town, a third town, who knows where this could go, really tells the State House that we need their permission to be allowed to regulate and enforce as we, as a town, wishes. So right now, there's a preemption law at the State House that does not allow towns to monitor, I don't want to say monitor, but enforce pesticide use. And that's what we're trying to do, is say, hey, we're seeing there's obvious harmful effects here affecting our environment and potentially human health. Why can't we? And would you allow this? So this is a group effort that we're going to local towns now on the Cape after it passing. So obviously in Orleans, we thought we just need kind of power in numbers for it to make a difference at the State House level. So we're really hoping for the participation of Chatham to move forward. There's a lot to do between, let's say, now and actual town meeting. So we're hoping that everybody in town would champion this upon your support of it, to educate and ultimately get the votes. So there's a little homework to do, let's say, in between, but we're willing to kind of take that ball and roll with it too. So as you know, pesticides, anything in CIDES is made to kill, right? And it's doing a lot more harm than we actually realize. And that's why we really want to step up and say, we should be being more strict, especially living above an aquifer and having so many saltwater embayments, living close to ponds. We need better restrictions around here. Because unfortunately, when you apply to, let's say, a plant, an herbicide, it is showing that it travels, especially through our sandy soil. On average, there was, I think it was the Cape Cod Commission said, a foot a day, and that's without water or irrigation or rain of any sort. So if you visualize a property, applying something on your land, it being traveling a foot a day in 30 days, the depth of our drinkable water is about 25 feet below us, again, on average. So we kind of try to do the math and realize our impact is just impacting our circle of life here. So we need to take note of that. Now, this home rule petition does not ban anything. We need to clarify. This is not an outright town ban. That's illegal. I don't want to do things that are illegal. I don't want to do things that are actually potentially going to work down the line. So this is written that pesticide use outside of your home to be regulated and lessening our impact is all we're trying to do, is a reduction in use. So things on your own body are allowed, things inside your house are allowed. In this particular home rule petition that we have crafted with the Town of Orleans boards carefully and constructively, we're wishing to take the same home rule petition as it is written to neighboring towns, because that holds a greater impact at the State House if we all combine together. If we all write something different, it just makes it harder to pass. So again, this is more of a first step in lessening the amount of pesticide use, and we are choosing outdoor use because the one thing that gets me is if my neighbor uses it, I could potentially get affected by it. I choose not to use said products. but it goes in the air, it goes in the soil, it's going somewhere. And the plant doesn't always absorb, or, the, excuse me, the rat, the mouse that the owl eats. We've heard all about that, right? And then the owl dies. There are repercussions for our actions, and we're just talking about thinking about our future. So if this moves forward and passes at town meeting, then it goes to the State House for about 2 years. While it's there, it becomes a bill at the State House through Representative Sarah Peak. And it gets on the Energy and Environmental Association desk. And then it is up to them to push it forward. Ultimately, it goes through the House to the governor, to the governor to be signed. So this is a 2-year process. If after 2 years it doesn't get off of somebody's desk, it literally dies. And we start over. So that's the process. It's not changing overnight. It's the first step, and it might even not even work at all. But I ask all town residents and anybody listening and beyond that we see these things are harmful. We can see it in science. We can say it. We all should volunteer to not use these things on our own land, whether it's privately owned, business owned, or town owned property, because it is harmful. There are natural remedies. There are companies out there already existing that can maintain property without the use of said pesticides. So it's a direction we all should go in, regardless if it doesn't pass or it sits at the State House. So I'm pretty much asking towns to volunteer to not use pesticides on your land, outside of your home. And I'm just hoping towns give that to residential vote to let the citizens decide for themselves how they wish to handle the situation. So again, today I'm here to just ask for a letter in support for the Board of Health to the Select Board to allow this to go to your town vote 2024. Does anybody have any questions for me? Again,
Okay,
thank
yeah,
you.
Thank you. I have just a process question or two, and then we can open it up. But as I understand it, the text of this is a bylaw. This would wind up going to town meeting, and town meeting would pass this exact bylaw, all the words and everything that's in it. And then if it goes to the state and they approve the home rule, this comes back to us in the same form. It's already approved as the bylaw that would come into effect.
That's the dream, yes.
Right, it's the dream, so-
But at the State House, they will have the opportunity to curtail it in any way they wish, and then it would come back to us,
Right.
correct?
So we have to think not only about the value of trying to restrict or reasonably manage pesticides, but whether this exact text, this exact bylaw is something that we could recommend. That's our mission here. And I would ask, you said pesticides, but do pesticides include herbicides?
Anything ending in CIDES is a pesticide. So there's pesticide is the umbrella. Underneath would be an herbicide, a fungicide, insecticide. There's many. There could be 100 different CIDES. So anything ending in sides is a pest.
So to me, herbicides is sort of a fancy way of saying weed killers.
Correct.
So any weed killer that's in a lawn product would be a part of it.
That kills
Okay.
weeds. Insecticide would kill insects. Fungicide would kill fungus. So that's
And then
correct.
have you had other towns support this already? I mean, have they passed it like your town?
I live in Eastham, and Orleans has passed this,
Orleans
meaning
has passed
just in the fall of 2023, which is just a few months ago, October 17th. And it will be going to the State House in January to turn into a bill with Representative Sarah Peak. And then hopefully other neighboring towns in '24 will also support this bill and make that bill stronger.
And then when it was discussed in Orleans, did you all get into how something like this would get implemented? Who would enforce it? What department, manpower, expertise, all of that? Because we've been involved in doing regulations before, and my view always is you have to have the implementation, manpower, how's it going to work, an integral part of the regulation itself, because they kind of go hand in hand. So I just ask, has Orleans dealt with that yet, or is it just passed to the town manager?
Yes, there's a lot of talk about that, of course. Many people bring up, how are you going to enforce this? So we took the actual written enforcement written by the state and implemented it into the Orleans notes documents. So this is on the Orleans town website, and you can click on, pesticide reduction, and the language is there. Again, this is what the state wrote as language. They have chosen that. And again, it's kind of like, who do you put first, right? The cart or the horse situation? The way Orleans described it is they're willing to let the state go next. And then if it is approved at the state level, we'll know ahead of time, it can circle back then to the town, and there'll be time to implement, teams of people, who's going to be in charge of this and what is that going to cost and such. So they
So that's sort
decided
of
to
dealt with
just.
later,
Yeah,
after you
because it could be
basically already passed
2
it.
years. Right.
Okay, let me just open it up to questions to everybody, and then we can go around. And Dick?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, why do you exclude nurseries and farms? And would we exclude golf courses and other major users and companies that apply these sides to people's homes professionally? Why were these exclusions put into this?
Okay, that was a lot of questions. Okay, so first was about the garden centers, is that correct? And
You said
the
nurseries and farms.
And farms, yeah, so.
Yeah, I know you don't have any golf courses in Orleans.
Right, and golf course would be different. Yeah, but Orleans doesn't have a golf course, but that's just, so golf courses we really wish to be a part of this pesticide reduction home rule petition. So it's just so much land outside, and there are golf courses that are non-toxic, like the one in Martha's Vineyard, so the template is already created and easily can be passed on to other golf courses. So that language is.
So they don't use any fertilizer in Martha's Vineyard?
Oh, I'm not sure of all these details. I'm not a golfer,
okay.
but that's
Yeah.
possible. This is just a pesticide reduction that we're talking about here today. And so again, this is a place to start, and Orleans decided to write it exempting the nurseries and larger scaled things, because if you're, let's say, growing food, you're growing, I don't know, potatoes or something, and a bug starts infesting it, and then it all takes over. So it was more about, for bulk reasons, the local.
So that wouldn't apply if I'm growing tomatoes and potatoes in my own garden?
If you are organic certified.
Well, no, I mean,
that would
the
be-
nurseries are not using just organics.
Right, so it's a language to start. The details are, so, I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with the exact reason, because the town of Orleans wrote that. So it's not just rolling off my tongue. There was a specific reason for them, and I believe it was because of bulk use. So if one homeowner goes out and uses said pesticides on their land, they're not certified land care providers like somebody in a nursery would be. So we took it in consideration that those that work with nurseries and larger garden centers have more knowledge on how to apply as opposed to a common homeowner. So that's why we left the larger things out of this particular. But that doesn't mean you know, if this moves forward, that you can't curtail some language to your town, you know?
Now, you commented that there are organics and natural things that are very, very effective. And I tried to find something that was an organic and natural way to kill poison ivy, since my lot, when I bought it, was totally overgrown with poison ivy. That was the primary shrub on my lot. And the town, tree warden in time, Kenny Eldridge, came with his town truck and herbicide and killed all the poison ivy. But to this day, 50 years later, every year, there's poison ivy coming up at the edges of my lawn and into my lawn. And I searched the internet for a safe way to kill poison ivy, and the only thing I came away with is you can take a pot of boiling water and pour it on the poison ivy once a week for about 2 months, and then you might be able to kill all the roots. So I can imagine if we have an absolute ban on herbicides, that my lawn will be infested with poison ivy and my grandchildren will not be able to go there. So I'm just wondering if it might not be a more appropriate way to deal with this, to say that commercial and residential property owners shall not violate the package inserts on these products. And if it says that 5 pounds of fertilizer is appropriate for 10,000 square feet, the homeowner can't put 20 pounds on in a hope of having a greener lawn. And if the package insert says you shouldn't spray pesticides when flowers are in bloom and bees are present, then you can't do that. But to totally prohibit the use of all of these products, to me, sounds excessive. And I can't imagine what this town would look like if you did that. You drive around town, you see 90% of the houses in town, approximately by my calculation, have lawns and gardens. And that means that the owners of those properties get enough benefit from those lawns and gardens, psychological benefit from the appearance, the flowers, the fruit and vegetables, and it makes it worth it to them to spend the effort to mow the lawn and to put whatever products they need on those lawns and gardens. And we're proposing here a bylaw that will say, absolutely not, you cannot do that. You can't put fertilizer on your lawn, and you can't put herbicides, you can't kill grubs, you can't kill crabgrass.
Excuse me, but that's incorrect. I'm sorry to stomp you, but this is a pesticide home rule petition.
Pesticides,
not a
herbicides.
fertilizer, excuse
Well,
me,
all right.
just to clarify.
Well, you've already done the fertilizer in Orleans. All right, well, just say, you can't kill the crabgrass, you can't kill the grubs, you can't kill the bugs in your
But there are natural
flower garden,
remedies.
and you can't kill the bugs in your vegetable garden. And people say, well, that's a natural Cape Cod lawn, and people should think that's the goal for everybody. And I can tell you, it's not the goal for me or for a lot of people. And if you look at the lawn around the annex here, that's supposedly a natural Cape Cod lawn, in August and July, it looks terrible. It's just not. And so people who get pleasure out of the appearance of their property will be denied that pleasure if we do this. And so I would like to see some evidence that it's really causing harm. I'd like to see a water test that shows the presence of herbicides or pesticides in the municipal water supply. You know, I would like to see some evidence that the birds on Cape Cod are being. You have a Chatham water test that shows herbicides and pesticides.
I do not have a Chatham water test, but these articles are from Cape Cod, and they were in your packet, so I just want to clarify that
And
there
they show
are
harmful
tests.
levels of pesticides in
These are
Cape Cod
links.
municipal water supplies.
These are links to studies proving harm, correct? You just have to click on the
I
link.
looked at some of those studies, and some of them are correlations, that things like, well, in July and August in Iowa, they use a lot of fertilizer and pesticides on the farms, and a woman who gets pregnant in May and June has a slightly increased level of birth defects, but those are not scientific.
I'm not here to argue with you, but all of these that I've given to Beckett are from Cape Cod, and they do show studies of proven harm, not to cows and not to cornfields, because those are not on Cape Cod. And one other thing I just wanted to share with you, are there are a lot of established businesses already set up. There's one business in town called Pure Solutions who can handle said things like poison ivy that's just raging your property. There are many ways to handle that. You can smother poison ivy by putting tarps on it, putting tarps over your poison ivy, and in a few weeks it smothers it. It's a timing thing. You do need to do it in the spring when it's fresh, not when it's this thick and it's the fall and it's had a year's worth of growth. But if we work with nature, nature's got a natural remedy for everything. We're just trying to lessen our impact. It isn't going to be 100% banned. That's not what we're asking for. But we do need to think about what we're doing, because it is absolutely affecting our water sources. Ponds, you can't swim in certain ponds. Why? Due to human impact. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're seeing why things are happening and we're connecting the dots, and we just want the opportunity to bring it to town vote. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
What do you mean you're not asking for 100% when you say no residential homeowner can apply pesticides?
Because you
to their
can
property?
still put it on your own body, and you can still use it inside your house. So this isn't a ban. It's illegal to ban. You can still sell the product. You can still use the product. I'm not saying you cannot. It's your property. It's going to absolutely travel to your neighbors. There's no doubt it's in these links. If you just take a minute to do your own research, it's right there. It's in your hands. And it is the right thing to do to allow other people to vote on this, other than stopping it at one place. Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions as well. You were talking about that it's not a ban, it's a reduction, but now it sounds like it's a ban. Could you maybe explain, if it's a reduction, how much of a reduction are you looking for, or is it going to be a personal choice matter? What are you looking for between reduction and ban?
So banning is illegal because these products are being, they're sold, right?
Exactly.
So we are not saying to the state, please don't sell these products. That's not the ultimate outcome. We want to regulate our towns, so the towns can figure out how that is. Is it a $50, the first offense, $100, second offense, and et cetera, et cetera. So this
it
is
is a
not a
ban.
ban.
But
This
if you're instituting fines, then
should be
that's not really a
regulated.
reduction. Maybe I'm just confused, but that's not really a reduction. That's more like enforcing a ban.
It would be enforcement, but we can't ban the products, the sale or use of them. We're not asking for that, and that's illegal anyway, because you could still use, like, let's say rat poison, right? You can use a rat poison inside your house, but not outside your house. So it's a reduction for outside. Why? Because if the rat eats it from outside, and then the owl eats the rat, the owl's dying. You've heard the circle of life going on, if I'm
I
hopefully
understand that,
correct.
right.
Yeah. So that's why outside is totally different, because then it gets in the environment, it travels on the ground, it goes from neighbor property to neighbor property. Inside your house is different. Inside your house and on your body, if you say you want to put mosquito spray on your own body, that's different than mosquito spray on your land and beyond, because that's just...
I understand. Maybe it's just a matter of semantics, but if you're issuing a fine to someone, it seems to me that it's a violation, which might institute a ban instead of a reduction. Like if someone doesn't use the fertilizer or whatever as much as they used to, that could be a reduction. But if they get a fine, I don't understand the parameters of how you're going to manage this?
So the Orleans Select Board has decided to have somebody appointed who would be in charge of taking, the enforcement question. I don't know how it's getting policed or what the words are yet. We still just want to be able to get it to the State House, let the state decide, and then the language comes back to us in their words, and then that's something that we work with. So at this point, it's just, can we get off the floor? Can we try this? Most likely to be shot down because of the preemption law at the State House. But it's showing that we are caring about our environment. We're seeing that we are absolutely damaging it and that we want to have the possibility. As far as all the details go, it's for years down the line and not for me or you, no offense to anybody, for us to decide. So
Okay,
try-
thank you.
Thank you.
Are you saying that Grub-X is not banned because you could use it on your body or in your house?
Correct.
But Grub-X is a product that's only used to kill grubs in your lawn. It's not
Well,
approved to
if you
wear-
use
it's
it in
not
your
approved-
house, that's up to
It's not
you.
approved to put on your body or in your house.
I'm sorry, I'm not here to argue with anybody, just
Dick.
the point is
Listen,
to,
Dick.
we can keep going around, but I think Judy has something to say.
I think the difference is, we can't ban the sale of the products because they're approved by the state and the EPA. But she's trying to get, the bylaw is trying to get communities to restrict the use of them, hence a reduction. It's kind of a language term here. I understand your confusion, but I think we can't ban them from sale, but we could
But you could be.
regulate them in some ways,
But you're banning the use of them
in some ways.
outside your house.
That's what the
And
request
you're-
is.
You're
Right.
fining anyone who uses the product outside of their house. They're gonna get fined
well, again,
according to this.
we don't know.
So you are banning the use of the product,
In Chatham, yeah.
except for your body use.
So it's like a personal choice.
Ron?
Our fertilizing thing, I remember when we went through that and put that fertilizing thing in, people had to be trained, and I knew we couldn't stop my going and buying some. I could put down as much as I wanted to, but they trained the people that were applying it. They educated them.
Right. So that's a fertilizer, that's different as Laura
Yeah,
explained.
but it's still along the same line.
Yeah, and there are exemptions in that regulation for certified applicators, garden people, turf people that have training in that. And Dick mentioned that if we said something that they have to use the product in the way the packaging allows it to be used, that's already there. That's already requirements of the state and the EPA. I believe when you buy these products, you're, by law, are supposed to use them the way they are, laid out to be used, so.
Right, but the concerns are that people are not using them in that fashion.
Of course,
There
more is
shouldn't
always
be- There
better.
shouldn't be runoff into the streams and rivers if people are not applying them within 48 hours of rain, as they're supposed to by the package insert. Bees and other pollinators wouldn't be killed if people were using them according to the.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we could have a bylaw that said that you're in violation of Chatham bylaw if you don't use these things according to the package insert in Chatham.
It's just.
I think,
it's
that's
difficult
the big problem isn't the appropriate use of these, it's inappropriate use. But to say that people who are using, appropriate amounts of these things are causing harm to unborn children, et cetera, I think is a reach, unless you can demonstrate in Chatham water that there's a toxic level of these products. And there's more ospreys and hawks and predator, than there ever were in my lifetime here now. And there's no shortage of birds on my feeder, so I'm not seeing a huge problem in Chatham from pesticides.
Right. It's not just about birds. I mean, there's, if you read some of the research by Silent Spring and such, there is concern about increases in, breast cancer, cancers on the Cape, et cetera, due to, small levels of things. And I'm not saying I'm in support or not in support of this, but that is the concern that I think people have about it. The only thing that concerns me is that we're not giving very much time to look at this. It seems the bylaw that's in front of you was created by Orleans for Orleans. It might be something that the town needs to have more time to review, perhaps look at it at a staff level with like conservation, and, the Conscom, the health department, just to review it and maybe see how we would maybe make it more Chatham-specific, if that's what we're thinking. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with Judy to the extent that, as I look at this, I don't have enough knowledge to know what's really in this, all the specifics, and what of common products it would not allow or allow. It's just too much. So to that extent, if we're going to give a recommendation, I would need to know more. This would have to be studied a lot more. You'd have to have a lot more specific idea of what it is. And we're asked, you're asking just for a vote, but basically we have to okay this particular bylaw, which is what will go to the town and then come back. So we have to deal with the specifics. But I had one other question about the process you had. Did you get input from businesses? How does this affect, lawn
Yeah.
care people, Bartlett, Agway,
Yeah,
Wilkinson, Blue
We've got-
Flax, all that, there's a whole bunch of businesses that I have no idea if this would impact them or wouldn't impact them or put them out of business.
We don't want to put anybody out of business, quite the contrary. We want to continue to work with nature, work with our environment, help protect us and our natural resources, and it should not affect our local businesses. If you are an avid pesticide provider, you could easily shift to being non-toxic. Homeowners, if you have a company that you're reliant on a 6 or 8 step program every year, all you need to do is say, hey, do you have all natural products? It shifts people to move forward in the correct direction. It's not that there aren't products out there that aren't available. It's just a choice. Right next to the pesticide is an all-natural alternative. And it's a matter of figuring out what works for you and your environment. There isn't a carte blanche, this equals that. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. You got to try on your property and see what works for you. Once you find the formula, then it's successful and you can continue with that forward. So there is a little bit of adjustment, and I know we're stuck in our habits and our ways. Most people are, myself included, but it's an opportunity to change for the better. This is just asking to better our environment and our future and the future of our environments. So it's just an opportunity. We're hoping to move forward. I get it's a lot of language. There's only 4 pages. And of the bylaw, it's 4 pages. And again, if we stick together in this language and it gets to the State House, it'll be the same bill with 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10 towns supporting it. Or if Chatham moves forward and creates its own, and then Orleans has its own, and then let's say Wellfleet has their own, all of a sudden the state is going to be like, what's going on? They're all different. So it's just harder to pass at that level. So we need to, really take things in consideration. Orleans took years to put this together. I feel like the homework is done, and you kind of allow it to your town vote. They're in or they're out, you're on or you're off. But to go and change the whole language absolutely would take so much time. And so that's really up to you folks to decide how you're comfortable in doing it. But again, if it gets to the State House and they're different, it just makes it harder to even pass at all.
My idea is that we'll finish up the discussion and questions and get all the input we can here. We'll probably put it on the agenda for our next meeting, and then we'll make a decision about exactly what we're going to do in terms of a recommendation and take a vote and all that. So that's how I think we'll go with this, but
I just
Carol.
have a quick question. Have you brought this before the Conservation Committee yet, or anything like this, or Cape Cod Commission? You have?
Yes, again, it's all in your paperwork
Okay.
of who this went to, and I'll tell you, the Assembly of
I didn't see the-
Delegates,
I didn't see
even,
the letter
they
from them.
voted unanimously. That means all 15 towns wish this to move forward. The Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates, Resolution Number 12 was, I believe that was in December. You know, it's just beautifully written, and it's only a page and a half. It's in your packets. Please take the time to read the language.
there's more-
The
there's more.
studies are there. Everything's in your hands. It's up to you to take the time to do it.
There's
Thank you.
more information available. We have some people online that want to make a comment, so let's move to. Yes.
You mentioned that this was going to the legislature. You said January. Does that mean this month or next year, next January?
This January, so it passed in October, and in January, it's the new 2-year cycle, so
So it'll
it
be
will
submitted this year, this January.
Correct.
Now,
Yes.
basically. And then as more towns enact this bylaw, so to speak, then they get included on on this bill that moves forward?
Absolutely, yes. It just makes it that much stronger. You know, if it's one town, 2 towns now, Nantucket has moved forward with this. And so we are wishing for neighboring towns to kind of follow the language and in hopes just to make the possibility even stronger. There's one other thing I'd like to add is, you know, there is a waiver. So let's say somebody needed to do mosquito control or something. You can come to your town and ask, you know, for a waiver to do, you know, how much you're going to use, when you're going to use it, you know, these kind of details. So
That's an
there's-
interesting question. What about Cape Cod mosquito control? How do they, because they do some larvicides, I believe, in some wetlands in the certain times of the year, and
Absolutely, and there's times where it's absolutely needed, right? And so we don't actually know until the situation occurs. So if your town has the language and they, you know, and it passes at the State House within 2 years, then we cross that bridge. So,
well, that's a pretty big bridge. I mean,
It
the
is.
Cape Cod mosquito control.
and so they would say.
I would want to know how they feel about this before moving forward that in town, because they do very important work from a public health perspective on Cape Cod and
Absolutely.
in Chatham and all our surrounding towns. So-
Absolutely, and so then they would bring the information to you, we're gonna be doing X, Y, Z at these properties at these times with this product. You know what I mean? So it becomes more, we know our impact and what we're actually loading into our environment. So would be great to actually know what they are doing. I am with you that these things are set up because they're a necessity. We're not saying it's a zero. This is not a ban. This is let's work together and figure it out.
Okay, Judy, do we have people online, public comment?
Yes, I see Lane Gibbs, I believe, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I came in a little late, but my comments, I've been following this. First of all, just because Orleans does something doesn't mean Chatham has to. Number two, the concept that we should all sign on to this document that nobody really agrees with, but we don't want to confuse the state and then we'll change it, is not a good way to go. And the fact is pesticides, you know, have become a dirty word, but what it means is it kills pests. And we have ticks and we have mosquitoes here, and people have become severely disabled by tick-borne illnesses and mosquitoes. And what it sounds like to me is this is laying a layer of bureaucracy that, to me, if I find out I've got certain deer ticks on my property and then I have to go through the town because we've signed on to this and I got to get permission instead of getting in here and spraying it so my grandkids don't get sick. I've heard this speech before. I mean, this has been going on for a long time, and I think that, you know, what it does is it takes the authority away from the homeowner to protect their own property. And you know, you're going to have to prove to me that organic is as effective in killing mosquitoes and tick-borne illnesses better than the ones currently on the market that have been approved. I think this is a real invasion into people's property in terms of us being able to protect. I understand the implications for wildlife, but when it comes to illnesses that can disable or kill people, I think we have a right to have more control and not leave it up to the state legislature or, a bunch of researchers who have said, oh, this is really bad. Anyway, that's my feeling on it, and I think it needs a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Other people, Judy?
May I comment?
I don't see anyone else online. Anybody in the audience? I don't.
Yeah, the audience.
May I help her with a quick comment?
Sure.
The caller? Hi, caller. Thank you for calling in, and thank you for your comments and your questions. Again, I just want to say Pure Solutions is set up here in Chatham. They go New England-wide and beyond. And again, Pure Solutions, check them out. They have natural remedies that are successful for ticks and for mosquitoes. By chance, mosquitoes do not like peppermint. If your property smells like peppermint, if you smell like peppermint, no mosquito will come around you. So there are natural remedies, and there are businesses already set up, so please do your own research. I'm not asking for people to get sick. I'm quite the opposite, saying let's lessen our impact in order to protect our resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Other comments from the board? So I think what we'll do for us, we'll put it on the next meeting agenda, and then we'll finish up our discussion, give people a chance to look some more if they want, and then make some kind of a vote or recommendation. But Laura, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
Laura, right?
That's me, yep. I would like to come back and have the opportunity to speak with you folks again. Again, my request is to just send a support letter to your Board of Selectmen to allow this to go to town vote. I think it's only fair for people in the town to get involved and share what they want to do. You know, there's a dozen of us here today speaking, but this is a whole town, and it should be a voluntary thing. And we all can volunteer to use less pesticides in the meantime. Your lawns are going to be fine. Your beauty will still be there, I promise. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very, very much.
You know, just one comment. I mean, she continually uses the word less.
The what?
She continually uses the word less, but what this says is an absolute ban on the use of pesticides and herbicides outside of your home, not applied to your body. So it's not less, it's a ban. And it's funny, when you read the Cape Cod Committee, whatever it is, the Cape Cod Commission's document, you know, it says supports the petition to reduce toxic pesticide use, not to ban toxic pesticide use. And to make this distinction that we're not banning because you can still use Grub-X in your basement if you want is kind of ridiculous.
Okay, I think what we'll do, sort of for us, is we'll put it on the next meeting agenda, we'll discuss it again, and then we're being asked to give a recommendation, and we'll have to put that together and decide what we're going to do. Okay, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a definitive subdivision plan review for Watts Realty Trust, 50 Stetson Cove Lane, Clark Engineering.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering on behalf of the Watts family. You saw this as a preliminary plan about a year ago. We finally got through the land court pre-application process and filed with the planning board for the definitive subdivision. So this is a division of existing property into 2 lots. There are currently 3 residential structures on this property. And when we're done, there'll only be 2 residential structures because the lots will only, under zoning, only can support 1 house. So the existing houses, you'll see the property line goes through 2 of them. They'll either be relocated or demolished, basically resulting in 2 vacant lots. Each lot would be restricted according to your latest regulations on number of bedrooms. I believe, each lot has an excess of 40,000 square feet of upland, so each house would be allowed to have 4 bedrooms, and then if they chose to, they could come before the board and ask for an additional bedroom if they wanted 5. This is going to the planning board, and I think 3 weeks from today. Be happy to answer any question.
Let me just ask one thing first. We did approve the preliminary plan
Yep,
a year or so ago.
yeah.
What's different in this definitive subdivision from that preliminary plan? What has changed, if anything?
Minor changes to the lot shapes.
Square footage?
Yeah. Yeah, but basically, it's still a 2-lot subdivision.
Questions?
So this isn't a variance application. This is just because any subdivision needs approval of the Board of Health?
Anything that goes to the planning board subdivision, except for an A and R, needs the Board of Health to review
Yeah.
and make a recommendation.
So this is really kind of pro forma, then?
Well, under the subdivision control law, state statute, a subdivision has to be filed with the Board of Health for their review to see which lot, if any, are unsuitable for an on-site sewage disposal system. That's all the state law says.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think Judy has stated the soil conditions at the site are generally sandy soil suitable for subsurface sewage disposal. And I'm thinking that's our main mission here.
Yep. And, yes, so basically, for erosion control, well, basically for sewage, yeah.
Right.
And
Okay, so it looks pretty straightforward. Can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, we can take a voice vote on this, I think. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one's opposed, so that passes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have, third on our agenda is a continuation of our discussion on the revisions to the nitrogen loading regulations, which we have talked about for a couple of meetings now. Judy has put together a memo with some of her thoughts, and then 3 suggested types of language that could be used to change the regulation. Another option I'll just throw in there is that we could choose, if we wanted to keep it basically as it was before, we could do that. But we've been talking about, should we do something to deal with the 2-bedroom properties? So I can open the discussion.
So there are 3 options that you provided, the 6.3, 6.3, 6.3 are your 3 options. I personally see no problem with just using the 3rd paragraph and not making any specific comments about 2-bedroom versus other size homes. You know, the first 2 options, as to my reading, are allowing an additional bedroom in any 2-bedroom house with no requirement that they have a deed restriction regarding short-term rentals. The 3rd option allows the board to put a deed restriction on any home that's asking for an additional bedroom in excess of the number of bedrooms allowed by the size of their lot. And I see the third as being really all we need, without getting into a whole lot of discussion about whether two-bedroom houses are different than three-bedroom houses or four-bedroom houses. And, you know, if you don't give the board the option of restricting, of requiring a deed restriction, you know, if we don't even have that option for a two-bedroom house, I can foresee the whole town turning into three-bedroom short-term rentals. The people who have come forward and said they think it's abusive of us not to allow an extra bedroom in a two-bedroom house have all said they have reasons to need an extra bedroom because of the size of their family, et cetera. So there's no reason not to ask them to restrict the deed and not, so that they can't then convert that into a short-term rental. So I would like to just see the third option as the option that we choose.
My understanding is that, and Judy can correct me, that we can put a deed restriction anytime we grant a variance, that we can add the deed restriction. And we decided not to put the short-term rentals extra language in just because we could always put the deed restriction in ourselves. Or we could just, we could put a deed restriction, no short-term rentals for the first and second ones. I personally, my own opinion is, and I feel strongly about this, I do not want to open up the whole range of number of bedroom homes from large to small to review case by case. And basically, to me, that reverses the basic regulation that we did before. It just throws the whole thing open, and I would not be for that. I think that's kind of a reversal of our regulation, and every single variance then we'll have to decide, you know, whether we would go back, whether we'd add that bedroom again or not. It's like to have us, my own opinion is, either we decide to do something with the small two-bedroom places or not.
So you're saying that a person who has a 28,000 square foot house with 3 bedrooms on it and has a large family and wants a 4th bedroom, absolutely not. We can never do that under any circumstances.
That's the way we wrote the regulation. I think we deal with the two-bedroom home and whether it would be extended to a 3rd bedroom. That's my feeling. I think that we can add the short-term rental restriction, and
the reason that you wouldn't want a 3-bedroom house on 28,000 square feet to have a 4th bedroom is, with a deed restriction, is what? When Mr. Clark is here to tell us that 4th bedroom, that house with 4 bedrooms would produce less nitrogen in the groundwater than the current house with 3 bedrooms. So it's just we just don't like the looks of larger houses. I mean, what is our reason for not allowing a 3-bedroom house on 28,000 square feet to have a 4th bedroom? Absolutely.
My question is, what was our reason for changing the regulation to begin with? I mean, I think we changed it because there was concern about that exact
The concern was
situation.
about short-term rentals.
no.
That was my
No,
concern.
I don't think it was the short-term rentals.
What was the concern?
It
was
was
the extra bedrooms,
It was
the extra
the
use,
continuous
quality
request for
of
extra
neighborhoods,
bedrooms.
the quality of life in the neighborhoods. It was a broad thing.
Oh, well,
The increase.
my concern was all of those things because they get turned into short-term rentals.
That has sort of come up more later, but I don't think this is primarily about short-term rentals. I think short-term rentals as a deed restriction can be added on to the carve-out to make it more acceptable to us. And I think, my own opinion is, and I think Carol suggested this, was instead of saying if we're going to consider it, a 2-bedroom property will be allowed, change the language to may be allowed. Gives us the discretion to do it or to not do it, because we've seen well, I'll just leave it at that.
Can we add that last sentence? All such variances granted may require conditions, just to make it clear that we can put a deed restriction on a 2-bedroom house being converted to a 3, if you took the last sentence from the third paragraph and put it
I mean,
into the,
I think we can, but we can add that language, can't we?
and put it into the first,
Take that sentence, but don't put about the short-term rental. I don't think that you have to mention short-term rental
well,
in this restriction, but you can say
why not?
that
Deed restrictions may be added to the.
exactly,
the extra
but
bedroom
not
for
what the
a
deed
two-bedroom.
restriction could be, because it could be
So,
anything.
Well, I know,
maybe just
but-
to clarify the three options I laid out here. Just to clarify the three options I laid out here, the first one was the change we already made, basically, that says, well, no, the first one is the option that I had first recommended, how we change it would say.
Right, that's a first.
Notwithstanding that two-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 square feet will be allowed a third bedroom with best available nitrogen-reducing technology. And then the second one says, notwithstanding that a two-bedroom property on lots greater than 10,000 square feet may be allowed a third bedroom with best available technology. And then the third one was, existing properties that already exceed the requirements may be allowed an extra bedroom upon review of the Board of Health in accordance with requirements of section 6.1 A, B, and C, which is the variance section of the regulation, which is already in the regulation. All such variances granted may require conditions as defined by the board, including, or I could say, including but not only a deed restricting the use of the property to owner occupied or for rental greater than 31 days in length. So that one basically goes back basically to what we were doing prior to changing the regulation at all, saying that anybody can have an extra bedroom if the board agrees to it, and it would include a deed restriction. So
Right.
number two,
Number two is the modification of the first modification we made, changing will to may. And then I think we could add to that, as Dick suggested, it's the language
All such
including deed
variance.
restrictions and the use of property to owner occupied or rental greater than 31 days, that's it. No short-term rentals. We can,
So take the second paragraph and add the last sentence from the third paragraph.
yeah, can we do, yeah.
but that's still limiting 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms.
I know, well,
Yes, but
that's,
I think we
I'm being
should-
told that we don't want to do that.
Open that up again.
That we don't
Well,
want
it's,
any,
the
we don't
board
want
can
any.
vote. I mean,
anybody with a
you're
big
one
house.
member, there's,
Yeah.
it's up to the board to decide and vote on it, so you don't have to.
Well, no, I think we're trying to do what we.
I know, you want to come to a
And then
consensus.
We talk our way into a consensus, and I think what Dick said last was the second proposed language, which was changing it from may to will for the two-bedroom greater than 10,000 square foot lots, and then add the sentence about including deed restrictions, which would include short-term rentals, either stated or not stated, to that, and that, to me, would be acceptable.
I know, I know that'd be acceptable to you. It's still
Right, that's my opinion.
a problem for me, because we're telling everybody with a three-bedroom house, regardless of if their lot is under 40,000 square feet, that they can't ever add a fourth bedroom, and even if they put in an IA system. And I think that's abusive, but, I don't know what the other members.
I don't want to
we
step
would-
back and
would-
open up, basically,
Why?
open up the whole regulation we passed before. I would be in favor of trying to address the complaints that have come up before us, and that's with the two-bedroom sort of entry-level homes, and maybe the more affordable homes, they have the possibility of getting one extra bedroom, but I don't want to sit down and then talk about the 4- and 5-bedroom and the.
Why? If they're willing to have
Because
a
I
deed
think our-
restriction and they're going to make less nitrogen than they are now.
Because I think our original regulation was a good one, and I wouldn't be in favor of changing that. But would be acceptable to talking about something for the small two-bedroom. But I'd be interested in what someone
Yeah.
else says.
So the two options we have now are the second paragraph with the last line from the third paragraph, or just the third paragraph. So I would prefer the third paragraph as it stands. How about the other members?
Yeah, to me, I'll just say again, that opened up, to me, the third paragraph opens up the whole regulation to redo, and I'm not really for that at all.
I don't understand.
But, yeah, so we can, yeah, and then we could, at some point, take a vote on what we're going to do. And if we can't come to an agreement, or whatever, I mean, we could just keep what we had before and not address the two bedrooms, which I would prefer. I'm sort of, those are the complaints that we've heard, and I would consider addressing them. But I'm interested in what other people think, or questions they have.
I like the
Carol?
second,
Okay,
with the addition of the,
okay,
from the third.
okay, good, that's a definitive statement. Ron, did you have a question, or are you thinking about something that's,
Yeah, it seems like it's really getting confused again.
well, what, oh, you,
It seems like it's getting confused again here.
well, I
I'm
think,
back
we-
reading, trying to move them, and what are we gonna say?
to me, is you keep the whole regulation, and we're just addressing that two-bedroom, entry-level place. And admittedly, you can say it's arbitrary, but these regulations always, to some extent, you have to make a line, and there's some things you do and you don't somewhere, so it's always a little difficult. But that's where we are. Carol, did you have a question, or?
Okay, well, I'm a little torn on it too, but I guess if I had to vote, I would do the second paragraph with the sentence from the third, I guess.
Okay, and that's what I would,
I just, yeah, I guess.
Or you have a majority for that.
so Judy, you seem to be, are you in favor of the third one? I mean, broadly reopening it, or are you just throwing it out, trying to?
I'm just
trying to give us
throwing
all the
them.
possibilities?
Right, I mean, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, the third possibility, going kind of back to where we were originally, where anybody could basically add a bedroom as long
that's-
as they deed restrict. I was under the impression that that's what you did not want. So, I mean, I think that the complaints that we received after the regulation changed was focused basically on two-bedroom properties not being able to add a third on lots, you know, less than 20,000 square feet, so.
Okay, I'm still a little confused, but does this mean that, I mean, we do variances all the time, so if a three-bedroom house came to us and wanted a fourth, would we be allowed to consider that?
Yeah, if they had 30,000 square feet, they could add a fourth as long as they put IA in. So they,
Right, but
If they were
a three-bedroom on 28,000 square feet, absolutely, we could
would not be able to.
grant a variance.
So you get to, you have to meet the regulation, which is one bedroom per 10,000 square feet. So if you
Okay.
have a three-bedroom house on a 35,000 square foot,
Well, they don't need a variance.
well, if you want to add a fourth, you could with an IA.
Can,
So the same thing on a, you know, 40,000 square foot lot with with a four-bedroom house on it could add a fifth with IA.
can I read your thought here?
Yes.
Okay, this, Judy, in the memo, you probably have already seen this, but this is, kind of addresses the two-bedroom thing. This is Judy's thoughts. My thought on the two-bedroom exemption is that families can more affordably enter into the housing market by purchasing a two-bedroom dwelling with the intention of expanding when they become more able to financially or when the families grow. I don't believe allowing this on a case-by-case basis with conditions will limit the market of two-bedroom dwellings. That was just her thought before she threw out the two things. So, I think we are getting a consensus. I mean, I'll just say it's my opinion, it's up to the whole board. The second one, which changes will to may for the two-bedroom greater than 10,000 square foot lots, get a third bedroom, that still gives us discretion, and add language about deed restrictions for, deed restrictions, short-term rentals, which we've talked about, which we could always do anyway, but we could add that language in there to make it more
Codified.
clear.
Yep.
So,
So if,
Carol Gordon, are you still,
A bit torn about this, but okay, go on, fine.
but do you have an opinion about which one you might,
The only, what I had said before, the second paragraph with the third,
okay?
the ending sentence, I guess.
Do we want to take a vote?
I think we,
Somebody who's,
but
any comments?
just
not a
understand,
vote, but a motion.
this would just be to move ahead with some draft language, then we still have to have a public hearing.
Yes.
You know, it has to be the same procedure, 2 weeks, and so this would be draft language, come to a public hearing, and then after the public hearing closes, the board could vote on it.
And then we would have to give it more time, have more public input, make sure people are aware of what we're doing, and then we would have the final vote. So we're actually, yeah, Judy is correct. We are voting on language that we will put together for a public hearing, and then go ahead with the process.
Do you want to take the,
We take,
Comment?
okay, we'll take the online thing next.
we have one hand up, Charlie?
Your
Can't hear you.
microphone's not
You're
on.
muted.
Is there some? We still can't hear you. Your microphone must be muted? Are there other people?
Can you read his lips?
No.
Okay, yeah, we just can't hear you. What could, so. I guess it would be the sound on your computer and then open your microphone for the meeting. Maybe we can get a motion, and then I'll come back and see if he's figured it out by that time. Can we do that? Oh, yeah, we can do public comments from the audience?
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Richard and Jill Tepper, who have been waiting for some progress on this, and we, I won't say we don't care what you do, but we hope you'll move forward soon, because the Teppers really have a family matter that they have to address in terms of the construction of the house on Cranberry Lane, which was denied the third bedroom 3 or 4 months ago. There's a broader issue of the effectiveness that Dr. Edwards has raised about this being a nitrogen loading regulation, but the option number 2 with the sentence from section 3 would work for the Teppers, provided that they will put in the best available nitrogen reducing technology and sign a covenant in regard to it not being a nitrogen and not being a short-term rental. So from our perspective, that approach would be sufficient. We just would urge you to set the public hearing sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think our intention is, if we take a vote, then we'll just give it enough time so that the public's been informed, because we were told they weren't properly informed before, in somebody's opinion.
That was
And so
from
we'll
another
address that. and
another
then we'll-
lawyer, not
we'll get
from
it-
me.
We'll get it done. Okay, Charlie?
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Sorry for my problem on my end. Well, first, thank you again for spending so much time to try to come up with the best possible solution. I've been following this since last August, and so I know that this has been a complex subject, and I'm glad that there'll be a public hearing for it so we can digest some of the discussion that you had today and understand better what you're in favor of. I'd just like to step back and say that, from the beginning, the problem that you've indicated you've been trying to tackle, it seems to me that it's changed over the course of the discussion. And I'm wondering if maybe by not defining the problem in a way that everyone agrees, that we may be losing an opportunity that does have to do with controlling runoff from the Airbnb, increased Airbnb activity. Originally, when the ordinance was passed back in August, I really believe that the stated concern then was affluent and was runoff, nitrogen runoff, and the strains on the water supply. But then, subsequent to that, when issues first started coming up, I think your own technical staff indicated that that bedrooms really aren't the problem, that even increased bedrooms are okay as long as it would be accompanied by the new updated septic system, that a bedroom, an extra bedroom would not throw off any more and the occupants any more than would be the case without the bedroom, as long because the extra the upgraded septic system would have a net benefit beyond the impact of the bedroom and the additional occupants. So that sort of took away diminished the argument that this ordinance was needed to control affluent nitrogen runoff and water supply issues. And when that was brought up, I think your discussion and comments really did turn to the issue of trying to solve the issue of Airbnb increased activity, and that the ordinance would contribute to that solution. And if that's really the problem, then I think the solutions you should consider are different ones. And I think the one that I think would have the most impact in solving that increased rental problem would be the one that I think is contained more in your third option, because that would limit additional bedrooms for any property, no matter what size, that it wouldn't by right have the ability to add a bedroom. So not just the 2 bedrooms or the 3 or the 4, but any house in town that if they really wanted an extra bedroom, by going towards that option 3, I think that would really prevent any additional strain on the town as a result of that might otherwise occur if there were no deed restriction on placed on the properties that added an additional bedroom. So so in summary, I would just say, if the issue here is really just affluent runoff and water supply, then I'm not sure any regulation is needed because of what your staff has told you about that. But if your issue is really, increased rental activity and the strains it puts on the town in all sorts of areas, then I think that requires a different solution, and one more akin to the option. I think if I heard the option 3 correctly, more akin to the option 3 that would restrict all additional bedroom activity with a deed restriction that wasn't available to a homeowner by right.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, can anyone else online?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. And then, can I get a motion to do the second language that Judy has here with the deed restriction language included from the third paragraph into it? Somebody want to put that motion forward? And if there's no motion to change it, then we would, well, can I put a motion forward?
I believe you can, yeah. Right.
Why don't you want to put the motion?
Okay, I'll just, as far as I know, I can.
I don't agree with it, but everybody else.
I'll go with the emotion so we can get something going here.
Okay,
With the, what we discussed.
so your motion is the language in the second paragraph which says,
Yeah,
two-bedroom properties on lots greater than 10,000 may be allowed a third bedroom, and then the extra sentence,
from 3.
all such variances granted may require conditions as defined by the board, including a deed restriction, the use of the property to own or occupied or rental greater than 31 days in length, no short-term rentals. So, okay, we have a motion. That motion, does somebody want to second it?
Second.
Well, we have a second? Okay, we have all the inputs.
Can I just,
Yes.
based on Charlie's comments and, this doesn't preclude you from requiring a deed restriction or no short-term rentals on any, even ones that we allow, like a 3-bedroom one, a 30,000 square foot that adds a 4th bedroom. You could still add that deed restriction to that
We
property.
would have the discretion to do it.
You have the
Yeah,
discretion,
we don't have,
yeah.
we don't have to put it in writing, but we would always have the discretion to add that, that deed restriction if we wanted, yeah.
But we would not be able to add, to approve a variance for a 4th bedroom on a 3-bedroom house on 28,000 square feet of land.
No.
So-
Well, no, not the way it's written now,
Or a
right?
5th bedroom on a 4-bedroom house on 45,000 square, so those.
Well, yeah, on a 45,000 square foot, yes,
Or
but not
5th
on,
bedroom.
on a 40,000,
Or a
yeah,
I'm sorry,
30,000.
35, yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay,
so
so-
we are restricted in those ways.
Yeah, So,
But the third option, your option, would allow all
Anything.
homes,
It would allow any.
all lots,
We
Right.
could approve or
whether it be a
disapprove.
2-bedroom,
Right.
we would have the,
You're basically going back to what we were doing
yeah,
before,
that's fine.
but
That's been
you're
my
just,
point. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and,
and the motion is to move forward with draft language
Draft.
to present to a public hearing.
correct, this is draft language, right. And then, it could be changed later, actually, but, okay, so maybe we'll take a voice vote. Or we could,
Go for each individual vote, yeah.
individual, yeah. Carol Boyce,
yes,
Ron Broman,
Yes.
Dick Edwards,
No.
Carol Gordon,
Yes.
okay, and Noble Hanson, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have draft language, we have new language that we'll put together, and then Judy can work on a date for the public hearing and the public notification, so it satisfies the complaints we had last time and move forward.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I neglected to,
Dick, just a sec. Judy's got something to say.
on the first hearing, the pesticide discussion, I neglected to state that we have 2 letters of support of that, which we'll enter into the record, but we could bring them up at our next
Yeah,
discussion
we'll
as well.
discuss it one
I
more.
apologize to Laura for not remembering to bring that up,
Yeah,
so.
okay. And then we have minutes from the meeting of, whatever that meeting was. What minutes do we have here?
January 8th.
The minutes of the January 8th meeting, anyone have revisions or comments? Okay, can I get a motion to accept the minutes of,
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
in a second?
Second.
Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and then, if nothing else, we can get a motion to,
Okay, I just have, okay, 2 questions. Do we have any jurisdiction over the Affordable Housing Trust? Like, when they do the affordable housing, do we have any comment on that? or does that not involve us at all?
No, they usually will come to me with questions specifically about, like, this change in our regulation came up, and I spoke to the committees that are reviewing that information. And then they often, if it's like they're proposing large-scale affordable housing, like they have discussed in certain parcels that the town owns, they've asked me about nitrogen loading restrictions that would be on there.
Okay.
And if it's a 40B, then our regulations aren't, they can't be,
Have they talked to you at all about the plans that they proposed last week with the 50 units and the 40?
that's a 40B.
And the 40?
The only thing I was asked was whether the nitrogen loading would be a restriction, and they are not, because of 40B, any local regulations are not viable,
Okay.
because that's the way the 40Bs are written, so that you can build affordable and attainable housing without being restricted by local bylaws and regulations.
Okay. And the McGrath property, of course, or the Mill Hill Road?
Still waiting. I can say that we did have DEP out on the Barnhill Landing property because we've had several incidences of flooding there. And I met with DEP and we did have a staff meeting with all the coastal resources to discuss ways to move forward on that issue.
I know, they keep saying that it's going to be forthcoming. Can we just somehow just get a date from them that when they're going to give their final?
Yeah, I can ask. Like I
that's-
said, I just keep getting, it's coming soon, so, from them.
Right.
So
How about the employee search?
Thank you.
Short-term rental,
it's still in the process.
because that's coming up fast. March is,
Yep, I know. I believe we're making progress, but that's all I can say.
How many people have registered online, do we know?
I can't say exactly, but it's a lot at this
400 or
point.
500 last time?
I would say it's about that, yeah.
Okay.
So we do have applicants though, right? That are for this job?
Yes, yes.
And do they, you can't say, I guess, but is there any estimate of when you might have someone, just ballpark?
Well, I'm hoping soon. I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, I guess.
It's a confidential process, so I'm not really allowed to discuss it.
All right, other old business? Somebody want to comment on new business? All right, if not, maybe I can get a motion to close the meeting?
move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
And a voice vote, all in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the meeting is adjourned.